Who am I hearing?
Okay. I was unmuted. You were hearing the Doug.
Dun, 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 dun. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum. What's up, party people in the house?
What up, though?
Welcome to It's Live, one of the sexiest voices in the SFL,
Mr. Master.
Dave Axis. What's up, party people of the SFL? Can you hear me now? Can you still hear me? People popping in, trying to talk to me when I'm trying to get ready for the show. What's going on with all that? I don't know. But anyway, welcome to Season 16, Episode 27 of Axis Live. I'm your host, Dave Axis. As always, we have another awesome panel tonight to go over the quarter-final weekend recaps, as well as the SFL Minor League Week 2 recaps, and SFL Minor Leaguers. For those of you paying attention and tuning in tonight, we have a special surprise just for you. We also have our mystery guest number 5. We have a last-second sub. Somebody subbing in for someone who was supposed to be on the show but got sick. We'll talk about that in a moment. Of course, we have the wisest man in the SFL, Gunny and his pearls of wisdom here. We will talk about next on NETMA and get a playoff fantasy football update. And if you're all good boys and girls, maybe I can get the commissioner to come on and do some little after dark. What do you think about that? All right. So that being said, let's see who is in the chat tonight. Who are my party people? Who are the party people of Axis Live in the SFL tonight? It looks like Max Jackson is in the house. Doug Britton, the lovely, amazing, perfect pink Lisa. Mike Twinscrew, starting to make a habit of this again. Bullet Beletsky's here. Joey Schwint, David Leathers, Freddie. Jack Wigmore's in the house. Mike All is here. Bob Funk, Max Jackson, if I didn't already say that. That's what she said is back. Cam is here in the chat for now, at least. Leon Thunderman is back. Kendra Hall, what's up, girl? How you doing? Ron Cochran, nice game this weekend. Corey Mizzou is in the house. Coach Craven is here. Nate Hall, Ethan Kai, Albert Begin, Charles Doherty. Who else did I see? Mike St. Green. The mighty Joe Young is with us. Benji Matson is in the house. Benji, I hope you're doing well, bro. Doug Day is here. Ray, what's up, Ray? Who else is here? There's a lot of you guys in here. Art Vandalay, what's up, bro? How you been, man? What else? It looks like a lot of the same people just yapping in here. EJ Minson is here. Good to see you, bro. The Cuban Missile's in the house. And I think that's probably about it as far as people viewing. I see that there's over 50 of you in here right now, but not very many people chatting yet. J37 just popped in. Good to see you, bro, as well. Let me see what I got here. Somebody's saying my face is really dark. Well, maybe I was tanning. I don't know. Actually, I don't tan. How about that? Is that better? Woo, that's some white light, baby. That's white. All right. So those are all the party people in the house. Yes. Oh, Lisa just said, yes, chocolate Twinkies. Doug Day, if you haven't had chocolate Twinkies, bro, you are missing out. Those are amazing. Cam says that he wants a second camera position on Dave's other monitor so when Dave checks out the party people, he'll be looking right at us. That's probably a good idea. I would do that, but you know how it is, Cam. It's way over there on the side. I'm way over here. You know, I'm kind of too lazy to keep doing that. It was better dark. Yeah, thanks, Art. Appreciate that. All right, how about that? No? That one? That one? How's that? There you go. We'll compromise. How about that? A little medium light there. All right, that's enough of that. Let's see who our panelists are tonight. In the unscripted circle, there's only one thing you need to know about this guy, and it's that it's all about him. Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen, the general manager of Jacksonville, Mike All, is back with us. Mike, what's up? What room of the house are we in tonight?
You are looking live at my son's bedroom.
There you go. I was wondering about the decor there on the wall in the back. Is that just painting? What is that exactly?
So yeah, we painted a nice little accent wall for him, and then he took spray paint and painted a little star field / nebula or whatever this is behind me with spray paint, and he's not the best tagger. Let's just call it that.
He's not gonna have a career in tagging.
Nah, not anytime soon.
All right, sounds good. Mike, welcome back to the show, bro. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
All right. Now, the next person I'm about to introduce gets blamed a lot for making Nate Hall's circle, whatever circle he's in that night, go into the Matrix. And yes, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one and only Bo Morpheus Jr. Bo, what's up? Welcome back to the show.
It is a glorious, glorious Tuesday evening there, Dave. What's up to all the SFLians out there? And Dave, Nate had to learn, Tyler had to learn. You mess with me, I send you off to the Matrix.
Well, I want to know how you last time he was on. You weren't even on the show. You were in the chat, and you still made it happen, bro. That's some powerful
I can't
stuff,
tell you.
man.
I can't tell you all my secrets.
That's it.
No one can be told what the Matrix is.
There you go. Thank you, sir. In the unedited circle, we have somebody subbing in for us in the last second. For those of you who don't know, Tyler Falk is feeling under the weather. He was supposed to be on tonight, but he wasn't feeling well. But fortunately, I have probably the second, I don't know, maybe tied for first. I don't know, second most knowledgeable man in the entire SFL when it comes to weekend games. And of course, I'm talking about the one and only Mike St. Green. Mike, what's up? Thanks for filling in at the last second. Welcome back to the show, bro.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad that I could fill in. The only thing that I'm worried about now is, man, I think I have a jilted lover on my hands that I think Cam feels like I'm spending too much time with you lately.
You know what? He always does that, bro. He always does that. The only thing that he needs to understand is that you have your priorities straight, and that's all that really matters. You hear that, Cam?
Hey, man, love that guy, man. I'm going to hear it later on, I'm sure.
All right. So for those of you in the chat, this one may not be as quite as climactic as some of the others, but who is our mystery guest number 5? Any guesses from? I'm not even giving any hints this time. I'm just going to see who in the chat thinks they know who mystery guest number 5 is in the unforgettable circle tonight. Let's see if anybody has any guesses. Tyler is 6. Somebody said Doug Day. Somebody said Ron Cochran. What else? What are the other guesses we have, peeps? Who do you think is mystery guest number 5? Handstand. I don't think it's a handstand. Somebody said Coach Craven. Somebody said Ray again. Somebody guessed Ray last time as well. Somebody says Eagle. R62. Oh, I'd love to get R62 on After Dark. How much fun would that be? I think it'd be like the 4-hour show. It'd be like the longest show in Access Live history. All right. So for those of you who were actually paying attention during the pre-game, I guess is what we call it, during the music part, yes, we had a little snafu, so some of you may have actually heard his voice already. But welcome back to the show, and not from Eugene, Oregon, but from where?
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain.
There you go, everybody. Coach Craven's back with us. Coach, welcome back to the show. It's been more than a hot minute. How'd the move go? First of all, welcome back to the show, and let us know, how did the move go?
The move was great. The train ride, I was pretty much done with it by the time I got there after 4.5 days, but I don't regret it. It was fantastic. I just want to say my pronouns now are y'all and y'all. So,
Which are
I'm
two
kidding.
totally different pronouns, correct?
Exactly. I'm kidding. No, it was wonderful. The job is going fantastic. Really enjoying it. And Doug is sneaking up behind me, and I'm kind of scared.
Everybody needs a monkey on their shower, and you have Doug Day.
I have Doug Day.
There you go.
Yep.
And by the way, I will say I was following you on social media on your train ride, showing Doug's Oregon Ducks hat along the way and all these. Now, did he end up leaving that at your place in Oregon or something? How did that story break down?
Yeah, he did. When we were still with Vancouver, he was out for a family thing, and he stopped by and bought it. He'd never worn the hat. He was all excited, and then he was too far away to meet up with him again. He's like, crap, I forgot my hat. And I look over, and it's sitting on the table. So I've had his hat for a few seasons. So
wow.
It's kind of on the spur of the moment, started taking pictures with it. And, it's like, all right, Doug, this is Doug's hat by the county jail in Eugene, things like that.
I follow him. He did a lot of them. Cam is asking, what social media? Was that only on Facebook? I don't remember.
Just sharing it on Facebook, yeah.
There you go, Cam. So anybody wants to follow Coach on Facebook, you'll be able to see Doug's Oregon Ducks hat. Look at Bo putting himself in the Matrix. What is going on this show? Bo, dude, there's something about Bo. I don't know what it is, but Kendra Hall said happy anniversary to Doug and his wife, Dave Axis. I'm pretty sure I'm not his wife. Oh, I'm sorry. She wanted me to say that. Wait a minute. It's Doug and Doug's wife's anniversary. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Got it. All right, Dougie Day, Twinkie Man, happy anniversary. Say hello. Oh, 18 years. There he is, right there. Perfect. Happy anniversary to both of you. All right, let's talk some football. Let's talk some Elite Eight playoffs and see who's going to the Final Four. We already know all the teams, so Mike, we're just going to jump right into this bad boy. This weekend, as most of you know, I was traveling. I had to drive out to Fort Smith, Arkansas for my niece's wedding. And fortunately, and I do stress the word fortunately for me, kickoff for our game, Mike, was at the exact same time the ceremony began. I did have Bo Martin Jr. sneaking me updates during the ceremony and the reception, but I'm kind of glad I didn't see this one. I mean, when I see that Lone Star put 40 on the defending champs, I'm like, sweet. And then there's the other part. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so, wow. I took notes, Dave, but there was a lot to write, so I don't know that I have time on the clock to read all the notes. It was an amazing game. Baltimore scored on their third play of the game coming out of the gates, so they were ready to go from the beginning till the end. Lone Star had a slower start, which is probably why they fell behind so quickly and couldn't catch up. Although the defense really stepped up for the offense. You guys just weren't getting it done on offense. Started off the scoring with a safety for you guys by Al Lewis, which was a very nice safety. You guys pinned him with a punt at the goal line.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you guys had a nice little pick six to get up on the board by Lincoln Kingseed. So you guys actually had a lead at one point. You had a lead at one point.
1 point.
But yeah, Baltimore just kept the pedal to the metal and kept going. There was only technically 5 drives where they didn't score on, but one of those drives was the victory formation. There was 2 interceptions and a fumble. They punted once and only once, and that was late in the fourth quarter. They were just, their offense was on fire. Their defense did some good things, but you guys put up 40. If you guys have been playing anybody else but Baltimore, I think you're in the semis right now.
Unfortunately, we were playing Baltimore, but go ahead.
Yeah, but Jack Wigmore was on fire. He anything he wanted to do, he basically did. He threw 8 total touchdowns in the game.
I'm sorry. How many fingers was that?
8
okay.
total touchdowns.
Okay.
7 to his own team, 1 to your team. That still counts as a touchdown to me. So
Go Lone Star.
yeah, he beasted. Mac Chima got to be the beneficiary of 3 of those touchdowns. And yeah, 4 of those touchdowns, Bo.
Wow. See, I mean, that's the problem. They score that much; it's hard to keep track of all this, right?
Yeah, there was so much scoring going on. I think they just scored again on you guys.
Wait, hold on. I just got the update right now. You're right.
Yeah. But Ivory Irvin stepped up in there. Mac Chima had an amazing game. Their defense didn't do too bad. Troy Loshaw got a nice little pick. And they did really well. They actually they tied the second most points scored ever in a playoff game in the history of the SFL. But they are the first team to do it in the progression era.
Okay.
And it was an amazing game by both sides.
So
but Baltimore.
So you're saying Lone Star's in the record books, then, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah, you guys are in the record books.
That's awesome to hear. Wait. Last year, didn't Vancouver put like 70 something on Houston, or was that not in the playoffs? Was that in the?
Was in the regular season.
It was the last game of the regular season. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was like 62.
No, it was 70 something. I remember that, but I think you're right. I think it was the last game of the regular season, not the playoffs. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, look at us. Go Lone Star, setting records. What's up? By the way, Bo Martin Jr., I just want to pass along a little note from Nate Hall. When you went in the Matrix a minute, he said paybacks are a B. He sent you to the Matrix. So there you go. See? Attaboy, Nate Hall. Oh, Nate Hall, he also says it was in week 12 last season. So there you go. All right. Mike All, this game, ready for this? The over-under was 45.5. And we scored 106 points in this game. Pretty sure we covered the over.
Oh, yeah.
Baltimore favored by 3.5. They just barely covered. And then in the Who You Got, SFL Nation starting off quarterfinal weekend 1-0, taking Baltimore 139-57. As we move, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was going to do something new today, and I almost forgot about it myself. How about this? Mike All, talk to me about this person right here. Real quick. Player of the game, Jack Wigmore. I know you talked about him a little bit already, but go ahead and do his stats one more time for everybody.
Yeah, so he put up 498 passing yards, just shy of 500, which was an amazing performance. Threw the ball in the end zone for his team 7 times. With 131.5 quarterback rating, the guy was on fire. And as a second-year quarterback, just amazing.
It is amazing. But the good thing is, look at Lone Star defense holding them under 500 yards. What's up?
Yeah, that's what you
Dude,
did.
I'm telling you, this is all. I'm surprised. As much as we talked about LSG in that game, I can't believe we didn't win. Unbelievable. Let's move on. Let's seriously move on out of that, Bo Martin Jr. I think you agree with me when I say we don't need to talk about that game anymore. Let's go to the other Texas team in the South, Tex-Mex division, also playing on the road, Fort Worth at Vancouver. We called this on Thursday, probably game of the week material. Did it live up to the hype?
It definitely lived up to the hype, Dave. In fact, if it wasn't for that, and I'm sure they'll talk about this later, if it wasn't for that Atlanta-Denver game, this would have definitely been the game of the week. I'm going to tell you, the Toros and the Legion went at it. You could tell that these were three of the highest ranking two of the highest ranking teams in the playoffs, Dave, because I'm going to tell you, you had the best defense versus that high flying best offense. I call Vancouver, I compare them to, and some people might be too young to remember this, but there was a football team back in the late 90s and early 2000s. They used to call them the greatest show on turf. It was I believe it was the Rams. They were the greatest show on turf, and I tell you, that offense was so high flying. And when I look at Vancouver and I think about how high flying those receivers are, the only team I can think to compare them to is the greatest show on turf and the Rams. But I tell you, that being said, the Toros gave them everything that they could handle. Basically, the game started off slow. When I looked at the game, it started off slow. There was only 3 points in the first quarter, so it looked like it was going to be a defensive battle. So I was like, okay, so Fort Worth has this under control. They're the defensive juggernaut. They should be able to handle this. All of a sudden, Dave, second quarter came, and Vancouver went nuts. They scored 28 points in that second quarter. All of their points, except for a last-minute field goal, came in the second quarter. And it all got started. The turning point in the game Vancouver was driving on a very long drive. They had a 16-play drive, and there was a pass that was for Kendra Hall, and it got tipped by the Toros, and she somehow still caught the ball. And the very off of the tip, she caught the ball, and the very next play, she got rewarded with a pass for a touchdown.
Wow.
And Vancouver just went off after that. They scored 28 points to take the lead, and they just never looked back. Cameron Curtis did have a pretty good day for the Toros. Normally, it wasn't a bad day. He went 27 for 40, 228 yards. He did get sacked 5 times, which was weird because Vancouver actually was the one who was applying the pressure. I know Vancouver's defense is good too, but you would think Fort Worth, being the juggernaut that they are, would have done a little bit better at protecting Cameron Curtis. Vancouver did pretty good. Tom Pepper, 28 for 46, 290 yards. Tom Pepper threw 4 touchdowns, but had to overcome 5 interceptions, did the Legion. And so that's the reason why the score was so close, because even though Tom Pepper, he threw 4 touchdowns, he threw 5 interceptions. That Fort Worth defense, they really did do their job, but it just wasn't quite enough to overcome the fact that Jason Williams, the running back, only had touched the ball. He touched the ball 18 times, but 9 times in a handoff for 25 yards and 9 times in a receiving game for 26 yards. And that's a lot to overcome when you're not getting the production out of your running back. Overall, a really great game, Dave. Vancouver just barely edged this one out.
Before we go to the player of the game, Coach is asking if you would please let him out of the Matrix.
Tell him DM me. We'll talk about it.
All right. Well, he put it in the show chat. All right. Tell us about the player of the game, Bo.
Player of the game. This game was, I don't know who else it could have been. Kendra Hall was an outright beast. She basically, and here's the crazy thing about this particular player of the game. She did all of her player of the game work in 1 quarter.
Wow.
After the second quarter, you didn't hear from her. She did not touch the ball in the third and fourth quarter, but she lit that game on fire in the second quarter. She lit it up so hard to the tune of 105 yards with 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Dave, she broke a 61-yard touchdown run, a catch and run that was for the ages. She made everybody else look like they were running in slow motion. And pure player of the game. She did all her work in the second quarter. That's Diva.
It's Is that some foreshadowing, Mr. Bo Martin Jr.? So Jack's data had this over under at 54.5, so not too shabby with 57 points scored in the game. This was a pick 'em, and then SFL Nation, we dropped to 1-1. We took Fort Worth actually 110-81, so we go to 1-1 in the quarterfinals. Moving on to Game 3, Mike St. Green again. Thank you for filling in for Tyler Falk. Tyler, if you're listening, or if you're listening later, we hope you feel better soon. A lot of momentum on this Vegas team the last half of the season. A lot of confidence from people in the SFL thinking they could possibly go into Florida to steal this quarterfinal victory, Mike, but they fall short. How did that break down?
Well, first of all, Dave, hearing these, first 2 recaps, man, it reminds me of how great of a weekend that we really had, man. It was extremely it was pleasurable covering these games this weekend, man, and each of them were unique in their own right. But yeah, to get to this game here, I kind of predicted starting off, before this game that Florida was going to need to keep this game in the teens if they were going to win this game, and for the most part, they did. Save a late Mason Kirby touchdown with about 18 seconds left that, helped Vegas get to that total that they had. But, starting out this game in the first quarter, Vegas pretty much controlled the first quarter of this game, had an early field goal from Otis Boudreaux. They also had a Scott Johnson touchdown run late in the first quarter. But a key play in this game was a blocked extra point, and we had several blocked extra points, a missed extra point this weekend that kind of, changed the way, the flow of the way some of these games were played. Even though when it's early, may not seem like it makes a difference, but you could definitely tell. I think we had one in the Vancouver Fort Worth game as well that kind of just changed the way team strategy worked out. But after the first quarter, Florida finally started getting things going. They had a long touchdown catch from Stephen Bush. Alex Dominguez had a huge game. He had a couple, 2.5 sacks, a tackle for loss. And one thing I pointed out too is how clean the offensive line were able to keep Cochran in this game, even though Vegas did get to him a couple of times with a few sacks. But the offensive line were protecting him well. Bullet Beletsky didn't have a huge game, but when he did get the ball, man, the holes were wide open for him to run through. So we went into the half 13-9. Florida came back in the game and pretty much controlled the second quarter. The very first play of the third quarter, Jeff Como had an 80-yard touchdown catch. And then pretty much after that, Florida were in control. Vegas did come back a little bit. Johnson had a huge game, that we typically accustomed to seeing from him. He had a touchdown run that made it 20-16 in the fourth, and then that's why the mixed extra point comes into play. That would have made it a one-score game. Well, it was a one-score game, but it would have made it where a field goal could have tied this game up late, and it just kind of changed the dynamic of how everything went in the fourth quarter. And also Zarkov, Verdon Zarkov had a huge touchdown catch to put Florida back up by those two scores. Ethan Snead had 3 field goals. And as I mentioned, Mason Kirby had the late touchdown catch to bring it back within 7. But one thing I do want to point out in this game is that Vegas seemed to, I don't know if they were overthinking it. I really don't know what their strategy was, but we noticed behind the scenes that they came out in a lot of 5-mans and heavy fronts in this game, and in turn, Florida had a bunch of huge catches and touchdown passes in this game. So I don't know if that came back to bite him. I don't know if they were looking, to shut down Bullet and keep him from being effective. But, those heavy fronts seem to come back to bite them in that game.
Yeah, Mighty said in the chat, the Denver-Arizona game also had a blocked extra point. So you're right, Mike. There seemed to be several of those. The player of the game for the Vegas-Florida game, none other than the veteran himself, Ron Cochran. Tell us about him real quick, Mike.
Had a huge game, had a great game, and the 3 touchdowns, 410 yards, the high QBR. That's what we're accustomed to seeing from him all season long. He leads the league in QBR as well as completion percentage. So nothing surprising there. But I will point out something. As you see, his stats are 24 out of 31 for 410. Colin Pierce on the other side, he was 23 out of 31.
Wow.
But he didn't have a bad game, but he did not have a big game. But and my true player of the game was the secondary, and in particular Ryan Davidson. He pretty much locked down Blades on the other side. I was looking for Doug Britton on the other side. Mason Kirby really didn't get going until late. So Ryan Davidson, I did notice how he was locking down Blades in this game. And also Tobin had an interception. So the player of the game is probably that Florida secondary and really that defensive line. They had a great game as well.
Well, Jack's data almost nailed this one. They had over under a 54.5 with 53 points scored in the game. That's pretty impressive. Florida favored by 7.5. That's also really close. And SFL Nation, we go up 2-1 quarterfinal weekend, 123-72. We took Florida heading into the last quarterfinal matchup, Coach. Arizona at Denver, a heartbreaking loss for Arizona, but what a game this was. Tell us about it.
My heart goes out to everyone in Arizona because they had the advantage in virtually every stat except rushing. It wasn't a huge advantage, but they did have the advantage. Take your pick, time of possession. You can see some of the stuff on the screen there. Third down percentage a little bit higher. All of that. Turnovers, one better, although theirs, in particular, one of theirs was devastating. Pretty devastating turnover. But the thing that stuck out is that they couldn't capitalize on the turnovers they got. They got one, for example, early in the second half, and they had to settle for 6. And that was a big deal. That ended up being a big deal near the end. And you see that fourth quarter, if you could see that, 6 points for Arizona and 18 for Denver. And if they just could have turned one or two of those into a touchdown instead of a field goal, this is an entirely different game. Even with that, all of us. Oh, and by the way, fantastic job on McChesney. 61 yards, 3.1 yard average. The likely MVP didn't look like the MVP. Joey Tropicana was all over the place. The whole defense was all over the place. It was fantastic. It was really fun. I love defense. I love watching a good defensive game. And Arizona was fantastic for most of the game. And then, of course, Riley freaking Quintero.
Yep.
Goes yard. And I had this feeling in my, and I say freaking, and that's praise. That's high praise. I had a feeling in my gut on that kickoff. I just thought, and he just part way into it. Yep, he's gone. And Arizona had gone ahead, even with giving up that lead. They had gone ahead. It was right there for them. And anyone that's coaches knows you can't. It's not like you did something with the game plan that gave you the kick return for a touchdown. It just happened. Riley got a good build. His team put him together well, and he broke it. And what's Eddie supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
Just rip your heart out stuff. You got to feel for him.
Yeah, you know what? And one of the keys that we talked about Arizona on Thursday, Coach, needing to steal this game from Denver was Ashley not throwing more interceptions than she did touchdowns, and she didn't do that. She played a great game. She stayed mostly efficient, only threw one interception.
Yeah, and that was relatively late. That interception was late when they were trying to. If I'm remembering correctly, I've had concussions. Remember, that was late, and she was just trying to get him back, bring him back and win the thing. So she was very efficient, did a good job. Just special teams, they'll tear your heart out sometimes, it came down to that.
I mean, we were on the receiving end of something like that at Lone Star this season early on too. So,
and in the playoffs last season as well.
Exactly,
remember?
Yeah, and last season. I mean, that was a tough L for Arizona to take. I mean, Ray knows what I'm talking about. Eddie Gage, tough game, buddy, but I think everybody's proud of you. So, Coach, player of the game, McChesney. Interesting. Didn't have a McChesney type game, but he still got player of the game.
Touchdowns, they were key. And sometimes thinking about the game, it makes sense. Nobody really stood out. And he had one of his touchdowns came after DJ's fumble, and he looked like vintage McChesney in that particular stretch. I kind of thought it might be him leading up to it just because of the circumstances. Yeah, this is not what we're used to, but this is what champions do. They come through in a game like this, and
Yep, you're right, and they're former champions, and they've got the lead, or the lead, I guess you would say right now. Arizona at Denver. Jack's data 59.5 over under with 64 points scored in the game. Pretty close again. Denver favored by 7.5. Also really close. And look at us, SFL Nation. We go 3-1 quarterfinal playoff weekend. We took Denver 137-62. Before we get to Gunny and his pearls of wisdom, a couple things I meant to say at the top of the show that I forgot. I just want to break this down. First of all, I want to thank Axel Raven for the graphics tonight. He's the one who helped me out with Frank the Franchise Wade a couple weeks ago when I was gone because I got home late from my trip this weekend. He also helped me out again, so I wanted to thank him for that. And then what else was there? Oh, and then I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that Cam is going to be coming on After Dark to talk about a few things that we mentioned last weekend before we went. The automated system that's coming, price increases for quarterback and running back, the price increase overall, what that means, from a value standpoint, the whys and the hows. And then also, is it just me? Or is it some people I've seen in chat think that there's a lot more retirements this early in the offseason than there normally is? I'm going to ask Cam, is this just par for the course? Or does it seem like, some of the old school guys are just, getting to that point where they're ready to retire or not? So we'll be talking about that on After Dark. In the meantime, is Gunny around? Do we know if Gunny's here? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Gunny, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm good.
How was your dinner?
I had a Yingling for Coach Charles today.
Oh, okay, nice. Everybody loves the Langling or the Yangling. And look at Ray Ray. Oh, Ray, you're the girl. I hate, you can't say you're the man, but you're the girl. This doesn't sound right anyway. Anyway, Ray, way to go, Gunny. You're all set.
Good evening, SFL. Congratulations to our Final Four. Denver, the number 1 seed, championship season 13. Florida, the number 2 seed, championships in season 10, 11, and 12. Number 3 seed, Baltimore, season 15, the reigning champion. Number 4 seed, Vancouver, yet to win a championship, but because they are the underdog, I'm going to go with Vancouver to be a brand new SFL champion. They started their franchise and organization in season number 9. In between, Atlanta won in season 14, and if I might be correct on this, I believe Mexico City won in season 9. So congratulations to all those franchises. I hope one day that I get to have a championship trophy and ring. Good luck to all our minor leaguers. The Adams, our season 2 championship is 2-0, and the number 2 seed, the Madison Lynx, they were our season 1 championship, and the other undefeated team at 1-1. A lot of teams in the mix at 1-1. We have Memphis, Lexington, San Jose, Salt Lake City, Tacoma, all at 1-1. Ottawa 0-1, and Birmingham Fuel, they're not going to be down for long at 0-2. Cornerbacks, the Gunny's worried about maybe taking his job in the next season or two. Jared Brody of Salt Lake City, he has a rating of 73.67. And number 2 is Cody Griffin from the Tacoma Grizzlies at 72.45. The reason why this is significant to Gunny is when Gunny started in the middle of season 14, he started at 67.30. At season 15, he was 73.50, which Jared Brody is already there. In season 16, Gunny started at 79.73. So these two guys are gunning to take some cornerback spots. So I'm going to be looking for these guys. Again, good luck to everyone in the semifinals and minor league season number 3. To all the guys that have retired or are moving on, it's been an honor to share the field with you guys in the league, and I wish you all the best. I have enjoyed the segment with the mystery guest. Today we have Coach Craven, and also from last week, I forgot to mention Marcus Dunhill. It was an honor to have these guys on the show as mystery panels. I'm hoping Dave continues with that. And with that, Dave, that is all.
Awesome, Gunny. Perfect timing again. You're nailing it lately. Again, Ray, thank you for the Marines hymn lyrics. And that's a lot of minor leaguers. We got a lot of minor leaguers. That's something else I'll ask Cam about too, and see how many minor leaguers do we have versus how many people are leaving. Does that mean roster expansion? Does it mean SFL minor league expansion? We got a lot to talk about in After Dark. But before we get to that, let's cover some SFL minor league. We previewed these games on Thursday before I went out of town, and I think a lot of people thought Lexington looked really good in week 1. Chad and his group over there doing some work in week 1 with that shutout victory. But look at Albuquerque, Michael, 52-34 in this game. Break this down for us.
Albuquerque's off to a great start, and the Miners are doing great. They just happen to run up against the wrong team for the week. It started out slowly, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, interception, and 3 and out. So I thought, this game isn't going to be all that exciting offensively. But then the Adams got things going as Trellis Blanton drove down the field, finding Henry Meyer III in the end zone with a nice toe-tapping sideline catch for 6. Lexington was forced into another 3 and out, and Albuquerque, having figured things out, drove it back down and punched in it again, this time with Douglas Brown toting the rock and increasing their lead to 14-0. On the ensuing drive, Lexington caught a break as Albuquerque jumped off sides, and Dave Bird pulled the trigger, finding David Garris wide open over the top of the defense. Then it was a foot race to the end zone as Lexington finally got on the board. However, on the kickoff, Mackenzie Traeger returned the ball all the way to Lexington's 3-yard line. Then it only took 3 plays for Blanton to find Meyer III again for another touchdown. Lexington was driving well, got themselves into field goal range before being pushed out of it by a big sack. On the punt, Lexington forced a fumble and recovered it, taking back over in the red zone. Then a couple of plays later, Dave Burr found David Garris, once again, to cut back into the Adams lead. Lexington then picked off Blanton on the next drive with a chance to tie things up before the half. However, they were held to a 3-and-out and had to punt it away. The Miners held the Adams to a 3-and-out and started with great field position with just under 2 minutes left. Then Dave Burr found Zachary Patton in the end zone to tie it up at 21 apiece. The Adams were not content to let that happen and brought it all the way out to the 2-minute offense and got all the way down the field to Lexington's 4-yard line, where they had a field goal to take a 3-point lead into the locker room. Albuquerque came back out ready to reassert their initial dominance. They did with a couple nice passes, and then Douglas Brown broke through for a huge touchdown run. Lexington is able to answer with a field goal to cut into the lead, making it a 1-score game. On the ensuing possession, the Adams needed one play for Douglas Brown to bust off a 72-yard run for another 14-point lead. On Lexington's next drive, Dave Burr displayed some pure athleticism on the drive. However, they only got as far as the Adams 25 and had to come away with a field goal. Lexington then held the Adams from scoring, but on their punt, the Adams pinned the Miners on their own 3-yard line. However, that didn't faze them, as they easily brought it out of the danger zone and put themselves back on the scoreboard with a nice power run by Bailey O'Shaughnessy, closing the gap to 4. Albuquerque, however, had no thought of giving Lexington an easy shot at winning, as they took their next drive all the way down to pay dirt with a Nate Ritter touchdown. Lexington also found themselves without Zachary Patton the rest of the game, as he suffered a fractured arm, which one of Albuquerque's players did too, but that didn't affect them as much. They were a little deflated, and then it didn't get much going, but the Adams weren't finished on the day, as Douglas Brown ran one more in to help tie Annapolis for the most points scored in an SFLm game. The Adams managed to pick off Lexington's last chance, with Terry Saunders just robbing them. And that's where we ended, with the current champs moving to 2-0.
So a couple quick comments in the chat. Marco Swift, good to see you, buddy, by the way. The Halls saying the Adams and the Lynx are the Halls' 2 alma maters, both doing great so far this season. I mean, what a game, Mike, to watch if you guys were able to actually watch this game. Over 900 yards of total offense. Jack's data had this over-under at 32.5. Well, they scored 86 points in the game, so they crushed that. Albuquerque was actually favored by 2.5. They covered that. They had that 64% chance to win. And SFL Nation going 4-1 so far if you combine the quarterfinals and Friday Night Lights. 89-76 took Lexington to go 1-0 on Friday night. Moving into the second game, Bo Morpheus Jr. Tacoma and Birmingham. I think a lot of people thought Birmingham was going to get back in the win column this week, but they didn't. And this game kind of seems like the opposite of the last game. How'd that go?
Yeah, so, all right. So I think we may need to temper our expectations for Birmingham a little bit. Of course, everybody knows what they did last year. And so we had all these high hopes for Birmingham coming in this year, and they're rebuilding, right? So they've got a lot of new players there. There's only a couple of players who are season 2 players in the minors there. So Birmingham's got some work cut out for them. That being said, take nothing away from what Tacoma did, because Tacoma played a phenomenal game. There is some good in Birmingham, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But Johnny Reno played a great game for the Grizzlies. He went 21 for 30, 211 yards. He did make 2 mistakes, though, 2 very costly interceptions. But that kind of goes to what I had to say about Birmingham. Birmingham was unable to take advantage of the interceptions that Johnny Reno threw. This is one of those rare occasions where a quarterback threw more interceptions than touchdowns and still came away with the victory. The reason that is because Brad Jones had a career game in the SFL minors. He went 26 carries for 140 yards and then added to that another 3 receptions for 26 yards. So he accounted by himself for 176 total yards of offense. So it really started off kind of slow. The game did, but right around midway through, almost through the first quarter, there was a controversial play where a pass was caught out of bounds, but it was challenged, and it was very important because that would have been fourth down. But what happened was it was overturned, and it ended up being a first down. The very next play, Brad Jones executed a 25-yard run for a touchdown. And then the Grizzlies pretty much never looked back from there. Birmingham did make it close. They made a game of it in the second quarter. They came rumbling back. They actually tied it at 10. The game was tied at halftime. But that Tacoma defense, it just locked them down. It did not allow them to even so much as get a field goal in the second half. Birmingham, they can hang their hat on their defense because their defense actually played pretty well. They gave up one touchdown in the fourth quarter. They just couldn't keep Tacoma out of the end zone. But both defenses played well. So Birmingham, you can hang your hat on that. But Tacoma just played a little bit better. And Brad Jones did beastly things with a 42-yard long to give them a victory at 17-10.
Yeah, Marco Swift says, speaking of Birmingham, how about my buddy Nana Leahy, strong safety, defensive player of the week, ? So I guess that'll be up to whoever writes those articles. Jack's data, Bo, had this game over under of only 31.5, so at 27, again, really close by Jack's data. Check this out. Birmingham favored by 6. So Jack's data got the number right, just the wrong team.
And I know you were going to ask me about Brad Jones since he was a player of the game.
Yeah.
He pretty much lit up the field for the entire game. He was consistent from beginning to end, and that's great to have a running back who can, like I said earlier, who can give you 165 yards of total offense. He's going to have a bright future in the SFL if he can keep that up.
He is, absolutely. Birmingham was favored by 6 and had a 65% chance to actually win this game, which they did not. But SFL Nation, we drop our first game on Friday night. We took Birmingham 98-55 to go 1-1 and 4-2 over the entire weekend. Moving on to Game 3, Mike St. Green. Ottawa had the advantage of having a first week bye, which is great for scouting, and it allows other teams to not be able to scout you, but it looks like they weren't able to take advantage of that. Why not?
Dave, do I have the right game? I was thinking I was on Memphis.
You know what? You are. My bad. I'm sorry. You know what? I put them in the wrong
surprise,
spot.
surprise.
There you go. How about that? You want that San Jose flight? Okay, first of all, let me re-say what I was going to say, and let me stop the clock. I'll give you your full 2 minutes, Mike St. Green. San Jose flight. I'm a big San Jose flight fan. I was part of that organization in Season 1 and Season 2. I also like Memphis, though, because, I don't know what it is about that River Runner boat. I just like the logo. I don't know what it is. I thought this was going to be a close game, but kudos to San Jose for going on the road to a team, Memphis, who won in Week 1 and getting their first victory of the year as well. Mike St. Green, break this game down for us.
It was actually a relatively competitive game, Dave. One thing that was intriguing about this game going in, as you mentioned, about being associated with San Jose, I had both of these quarterbacks last season over in Memphis, and then so I wanted to see how these guys would do going up against one another in this game. And as you mentioned, making adjustments, but as you were referring to a different game. But the second week of the season, is a difficult season to prepare for. I mean, the first week you wing it and see what you're going to do, and it looks like San Jose really did a good job of adjusting their game plan and shutting down this Memphis offense. As you know, OJ Bruin had a huge game the previous week, and they pretty much held him in check this game. His completion percentage was okay, 26 out of 38 for 188, but 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions really hampered Memphis's offense in the second half. But as we go back and recap a little bit of the first half of this game, San Jose got up to an early start with an early field goal on their first drive. Memphis were able to answer back and eventually took the lead 10-6 in the first half. But then the second half was pretty much all San Jose, in particular the third quarter. They got the running game going with Jimmy Hazard. 21 carries, 112 yards, 1 touchdown. But the most important thing to me is the 5.3 yards of carry that he had, and that enabled San Jose to control the clock, keep Memphis's high-powered offense off the field, and San Jose were able to pull away in the second half. And as I mentioned, O.J. Bruin, his counterpart and former teammate over in Memphis, Joseph Green, had an effective game, 23 out of 32, 267, a touchdown and 1 interception. But what I did notice from him, he did the pass attempts were down from the previous week. I think he had 50 pass attempts the previous week and only 25 completions. This week they kind of kept that down, got the running game going with Hazard, and like I said, able to control the clock. Closed this game out 26-13, and San Jose had a huge victory. And also want to point out free safety Deshaun Evans with San Jose had 5 tackles and an interception to help that defense secure the win.
You know, over 250 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing. That's the balanced attack I think San Jose needs going forward to be competitive this season in the minor league. Jack's Data had this game, this over under 41.5. So with 39 points, they almost nailed it. They had Memphis favored by 10.5, but San Jose pulls the upset. And check this out. Memphis had a 71% chance of winning this game, the highest percentage for Friday night, and San Jose steals the victory. However, SFL Nation does not steal the victory as we drop another one in the Who You Got. We took Memphis 125-34. We are 1-2 on Friday Night Lights going into the Matrix and Coach Craven for the final game of the Friday Night SFL Minor League Week 2. And I will say my spiel one more time, Coach, just for you. Ottawa had the advantage, I think, going into this game. Being able to scout week 1, not being able to be scouted, but they went into Salt Lake and they were not able to get it done. Why not? Oh, we can't hear him either. Usually if we get the let me see if he's muted.
It was muted.
Oh, there you go.
I was muted.
You're muted, bro.
It was muted, bro.
Oh, that reminds me. I need to do a T-shirt update, but go ahead.
I was first of all, let me just say that when I saw Ottawa and Salt Lake City come up for saying green, I was going to fake a technical issue and just disappear because I didn't want to talk about my own team. This was a good game. It's a good game to watch. You had a lot of action. 31-point second quarter, which was pretty exciting game. Ottawa had all the advantages. They had total yards. First downs, they had 19. Salt Lake City had 10. Third down percentage, 52-36. And are you ready for this one? 72 total plays for Ottawa for only 44 for Salt Lake. Right?
You would think the time of possession would be wider with that wide of a play calling, right?
Yeah, there's a little. Yes, that's a good point. And they had some standouts. They had some guys do really well. Ryan Roosevelt, 10 receptions, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns came in the first half, and that was kind of key. Scar Patterson, by the way, I love that name, Scar. Yeah. 317 yards, almost 64%. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not bad. You can live with that. He was, however, sacked 5 times. And that was part of the key to this game because every time they got to a position where maybe they could score, they get sacked, they couldn't kick a field goal. And especially in the second half, it was kind of key. And this next guy, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Justin Reside, that's how it's spelled anyway, had one of the coolest interceptions I've seen in my time in the league. It was quite a highlight. I'm talking Ottawa. It sounds like they won. And if you didn't see the score, Tommy Utah had a nice game for Salt Lake City, 70%, only 212 yards, but 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, also good. Beisel, again, sorry if I'm butchering your name, 21 carries and 115 yards, pretty fantastic. And then Kelsey Brown, a.k.a. Kendra Hall Jr., 7 receptions, 135 yards, and a touchdown. She ended up being player of the game. And this was a testament to Salt Lake City's grit. They just kept grinding and they got it done because the odds were not in their favor.
No, they weren't. As a matter of fact, Jack's Data had this game over under 38.5 with 43 points. Again, I mean, Jack's Data's nailing on the over unders. Not as much on the spreads with having Salt Lake City favored by 3.5 and a 58% chance of winning. And SFL Nation, we just did not have it together on Friday night. We dropped another one to go 1-3. We took Ottawa 95-62. So we went 3-1 in the quarterfinals, 1-3 on Friday night to go 4-4 for the entire weekend. Those are your quarterfinal and SFL Minor League Week 2 wrap-ups. We're going to move into our weekly Diva of the Week nominees. This will be for the quarterfinal week. Mike All, I will be starting with you, sir. Who is your quarterfinal Diva of the Week nominee for season 16?
So, Dave, I'm going to go with the guy that I believe we're actually witnessing the birth of the SFL's Tom Brady here.
What?
Yeah, I feel like this gentleman, if he wins the championship again this year, he will be taking applications from beautiful actresses to be his first wife. Shortly thereafter, ditching her and marrying a beautiful Brazilian supermodel. This guy threw all the touchdowns this week. Well, except for one that he let his backup have fun with. That guy would be Jack Wigmore, your Diva of the Week.
Of course, you had to pick Jack. He threw 8 touchdowns, you said, right? 7 to his own team and 1 to our team?
Yeah, he spread the love around.
I mean, that's pretty diva. He's like, I'm throwing so many touchdowns on my own team, I can spare to throw one to the other team. That's pretty diva.
Exactly.
I can see that. All right, so Jack Wigmore from Mike All. Bo Martin Jr., what do you think about Mike All's Diva of the Week nominee, and what is yours?
I mean, that's cute. I think it's cute to pick somebody, who throws 8 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, that's not really diva. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what's diva. Diva is when you have huevos de acero. Do you know what that means, Dave? Huevos de acero. My diva of the week has huevos de acero. That means he's got balls of steel, and I'll tell you why.
Damn, I was gonna say scrambled eggs, but I was okay.
I'll tell you why. This particular person who I nominated for my Diva of the Week decided to go for it on 4th down, right?
What?
Now, you might not think that's a big deal. He was only down by 2 points. He decides to go for it on 4th down. But here's the kicker. It was on his 30-yard line, okay? So you've got 4th down on his 30-yard line. Now, he had 2.5 minutes left to go, and he still had all 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. But instead of punting the ball, he is so confident, he decided, and I say confident in his team. He was so confident in his team, he said, you know what? Let's go for it. If we get it, great. And if we don't, we're going to win the game anyways. Guess what happened, Dave? You want to know what happened?
I do want to know what. I am on the edge of my seat right now, Bo Martin Jr.
I want to tell you what happened. You want to know what happened? Here's what happened, and I'll tell you how it happened. He went for it, and they did not get it. They didn't get it.
How is that diva?
I'll tell you how it's diva. Because he trusted his defense so much. He trusted his defense so much that he knew he could go for it with his offense. And if he didn't fail, his defense would pick up the slack, and pick up the slack they did, because he didn't get it on 4th down. And his defense did exactly what he knew they would do. And they held the Arizona, a game that Arizona had dominated the entire game. This particular defense held them out of the end zone, kept them from scoring, and went on to win the game. And the person with those balls of steel is Jeremy Vega. That's my diva.
Oh, I thought you were going to nominate Huevos Rancheros or something, but okay. All right, so it's oh, look at Mighty said the same thing in the chat. What do you know? Yeah, Cam's like, what segment is this again? This is where you I guess argue for your Diva of the Week nominee. So Jeremy Vega is your Diva of the Week nominee for all of the stuff you just said. I will not ask you to repeat it. All right, very well, got it. All right, Mike St. Green. I know you were a last-second fill-in, so I appreciate you again subbing in. But I also hope that you had a Diva of the Week nominee ready for quarterfinal week, season 16. Who's your nominee?
Oh, this one was pretty easy for me, Dave. Whether I, was on the show or not, this guy was fantastic. And give you guys a heads up, go ahead and hide your ears or cover your ears. Lone Star Glory.
Oh, another
And
one.
well, Jack threw all those touchdown passes, and he had to actually have someone to throw them on too. So,
you said, was it Gunny? Who had the pick six for Lone Star again?
yeah.
Is that who you're nominating?
No, that
King Seed, baby.
Oh, Lincoln King Seed.
Yeah, King Seed had to pick six early in the second quarter in that game. But and hide your ears, in particular Gunny, because this guy gave Gunny fits pretty much all game long. Mac Chima, Baltimore wide receiver, Diva of the week. 6 receptions, 216 yards, 4 touchdowns, and that was at a clip of 36 yards per catch.
I'm kind of starting to think we could have just had 6 Baltimore people for Diva of the week, the way this is going so far. All right, Coach, moving on to you. Quarterfinal week, Diva of the Week nominee for season 16. Please tell me it's not somebody from Baltimore.
Not someone from Baltimore.
There we go.
Call it PTSD or whatever. I just didn't want to think about that game. I do have to give Bo some kudos. That was a very creative, extremely creative bit of reasoning. And if I'm ever in jail, would you please be my lawyer?
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, Diva moment. This is the key. I've been saying this for however long you've been running your show. Diva moment. It's Riley freaking Quintero.
Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's just as Riley freaking Quintero. As creative as y'all are, just mail it in right now. Diva moment. Moment. Boom. Slam dunk. One play. No. It just takes it. It just takes it. I can't bring any more to the table than one glorious play, even though he wasn't playing for the glory. There it is. Drop.
Boom. There you go. Look at Coach Mike dropping. Somebody in the chat thought you were going to have your Diva of the Week nominee be Mo Martin Jr. for the way he came with Jerry Vega. Oh, Deacon Nickens. Yeah, the whole Baltimore team. You're right. That's no joke. Hey, Gunny, you still around?
Yes.
All right, Gunny. Who's your quarterfinal week Diva of the Week nominee for season 16?
I would just like to thank Jack Wigmore for at least throwing me the ball one time before he threw 3 over my head to Mac Chima. But number 72 of Baltimore caught me at the goal line, so I could not make it 9 touchdown passes for Jack Wigmore.
Maybe you should be Diva
of the Week. But that being said,
maybe the guy who tackled you should be Diva of the Week for keeping it to 8. What do you think about that?
If I knew his name, I would, but I think he's a generic offensive lineman.
Okay.
But that being said, Baltimore had a great game, but I'm going with Florida's own Ron Cochran.
Good old Ron C., the old veteran. All right, so there's 5 down, 1 to go, and that is mine. My quarterfinal week, Diva of the Week nominee for season 16 should be no surprise to anyone because divas are wide receivers. Wide receivers are divas. And there is no bigger diva wide receiver in the SFL right now than Mrs. Kendra Hall. And here's the deal. We talked about it earlier. 5 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaged 21 yards per reception. You know what her diva moment is? I did those stats in only one half. I don't even have to play the second half. She only had to play one half to get those stats. There's your diva moment. There's your Diva of the Week, quarterfinal week, season 16. Boom. There you go. As always, Eagle will be having the look at him. Look at him. Dude, he is so fast. Look at that. In the Twitch chat, he already has the voting up in my server. So go vote for Diva of the Week in the quarterfinal. You have till, I think it's like Thursday around 4 o'clock. Also, quick shout out to Eagle, everybody. He is having his knee surgery tomorrow, so he will be out and about for probably at least the rest of this week. I'm sure we won't see him on the show on Thursday at all. So I'm sure he would appreciate well wishes from all of you for his surgery, his knee surgery he's having tomorrow. Before we get into After Dark and all that stuff, I want to do a couple quick updates on a couple things. The first thing is, as we know, as I mentioned before, Tyler Falk fell ill. He wasn't able to be here. Mike St. Green graciously filled in for him. I did ask him, normally on the shows here on Tuesday night, he does Next on Netma, so you know what's happening on Wednesday night. So I asked him to shoot me a quick text message, or a DM, if I can find it. And here's what he said. Tomorrow on Netma, and I'm not even going to try to do what Tyler does with the Next on Netma thing. It's just not going to happen. Rookie masterclass, quote unquote, basically for the minor leaguers. What should they be doing right now to get them a spot on a team come draft day? That's what he'll be talking about tomorrow with Kendra. And that is what is next on Netma. A very quick fantasy football update. The standings have changed except for 10th place. Apparently I'm still last. So apparently I suck at this game. But better than that, the team that the panelists picked for charity, for Objective Zero, the charity that helps against veteran and active duty suicide, has jumped into first place. So if that holds true over the next few weeks, or a couple weeks, then Objective Zero will be getting some cash. We'll be getting a nice charity donation from the SFL. So there are your updated stats. It's Access Live, Objective Zero first. Excuse me. Delaney Nash, Dwayne, Johnny, Gunny, Hunter, Eagle, Nate, Ray, and Tom. And then I am bringing up the rear again for the second consecutive week. So there's your fantasy football update. And we're going to get into After Dark. I'm going to have Cam jump on here in a moment. Let me check and see if he's probably already here waiting for. He's probably waiting on me if I wouldn't be. Oh, he's not here yet. All right, so we got a couple minutes. Real quick, somebody reminded me of your Muted Bro. Your Muted Bro t-shirts. For those of you who did the survey, thank you. There's a lot of shirts to be ordered. If for some reason you forgot or weren't able to do it or whatever, you've got a couple more days before I place the final order. So if you want your Muted Bro t-shirt, just DM me now. It's too late to do the survey. Just DM me privately if you're interested in that. Also, I wanted to let you guys know in my Access Live server on Discord, we added another channel, and it's called the Axes. I don't remember who had the idea. I want to say it was maybe Johnny Pickler on a show, but he said that we should come up with some end of the season awards for the show itself. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a good idea. So what I did is I opened up another channel to ask you guys for ideas and to give me your input for categories. I listed 6 categories that I came up with already, and also to give me ideas on who you think the nominees should be in those categories. So please go in there. We'll do the Axes probably the week after the championship game. We'll dole out the awards, which will include, Diva of the Year like we did last year. That was the only award we did. This year we're going to step our game up, and we're going to do a bunch, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7, depending on how good of ideas you guys have. So all of that being said, I think that's all I want to say on that stuff. But we now have in the green room, actually in the Showtime room, the commissioner himself, Mr. Cameron Irvine, jumping on to spend some time in After Dark with us. Cam, welcome back to the show, bro. How you doing, man?
Thank you, Dave. Let's see if Mike St. Green leaves my segment.
Wait, hold on. Let me see. You know what I can do? Just to kind of rub it in. What are you, unedited, right? I could just do. How about that? Is that better? We'll just do that. Mike St. Green, you're so rude. You left again on Cam.
Oh, hilarious.
Come on.
I'll stick around for this one.
All right. Well, you know what? Kudos to Mike St. Green for stepping up tonight anyway. By the time I heard from Tyler or saw his message, it was like 7 o'clock, like 2 hours before showtime. So, he's like, along with you, he's one of only 2 people I know that watch every single game or, at least close to it. So, Mike, again, thank you. Cam, thanks for being on. I want to jump into a few things that happened last week. We were going to talk about it last week, but I had to bounce early on Thursday night to travel. So, first and foremost, I saw the post with the automated system. I went through most of how it's supposed to work. Can you let us know, maybe just give us a brief overview, and then also let us know how close are we to actually getting to that point?
So right now we're in the process of building out player portals. So right now the process is, that there's like a master list of all the players, and then you fill in your progression that way. But what we want to do is we want players to be able to log in. By the way, it's a two-factor authorization system, right? So it's for security reasons and all that stuff.
Right.
So, which is also in development. But when you log into your account, we want you to be able to progress your player just right from your account, see your progression history, see your contract history, that sort of thing. Now, we may not, when it launches, it's not like it's going to have all the contracts from all the seasons ago or whatever. But moving forward,
right,
to be able to see some of that stuff. So, Gary's working on that right now, and then it's about building out the contracts. Marcus Dunhill said that he and Gary spoke, I think he said, for 5 hours.
Wow.
And I asked Marcus, I said, have you eaten? Are you hungry? and so they kind of went all in depth on all the contract rules and, how to build it out and how to, so last update I have is that all of that's in development right now. I would call that phase 3 of either 4 or 5, depending upon how long the process goes to put that together. So that's kind of where it's all at the moment. And then in terms of when we hope that will be ready, re-signing period on our league calendar is slated to start about 1 month from today, or a little bit less than that. But if we need to push back re-signing and free agency and all that, because we're waiting on automation to complete, we will, given the fact that automation will make things so much faster. We don't necessarily need all that time if we have a chance to automate this off season. So the target is about 4 weeks from tonight. But if for whatever reason we need a week or 2, we would be able to, to deal with that in the calendar and get everybody signed up right away. Because once players do sign in, that goes that process immediately puts their contract in a file and they're ready to go for the season. So there is no building like there is, after roster lock, Dave. You've got like that. I don't know what, a 2-week period, right? Where owners are waiting for the league to complete the rosters are completed, right? So that's the idea.
Okay. So for those people who may not be very tech savvy, how labor intensive or user friendly is it going to be on the consumer side?
It's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. We don't have the millions to make you work for it.
No, right.
It's really, we could really test you with a couple of mil trying to find all your stuff. No, it's pretty simple, straightforward. Right now, you click on your overall value, and your progression window pops up. It gives you the options depending upon what tier you are on what you can do to progress. If you have +1 primary available, it'll give you all of your primary attributes that are not maxed out. If they're maxed out, it won't give them to you as an option. So once you hit the +1 on a primary attribute, it shows that it went from 61 to 62, and it gives you the +1, and then it gives you the option to submit. If you up it again to +2 primary, it reds out. You can't submit that. And so the system basically lets you do what is available to you. You can't really make a mistake. The only mistake that anyone can make is if it's in the back end of the system itself. So you don't have you can't screw it up, basically, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And that's big just because, progression rules are not the simplest to understand or to always understand. In this case, as a player, you don't necessarily have to know all the ins and outs of the rules or make sure that you're posting correctly into the system. You just have to progress. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Okay. So Personally, I think that the SFL product has been a little undervalued anyway. I think the subscriptions were a little low, and that's just me personally. I know different people have different opinions, and that's fine. With this automation, though, that's going to cost money. It increases the product. We saw that there was a price increase for subscriptions. Specifically, a price increase also for quarterbacks and running backs, which, by the way, I also believe that I believe in a tier system for something like this. Like, an offensive lineman who barely sees the field or barely gets his name called, paying the same amount as a quarterback. I think there should be a difference there, right? So is that where we're kind of headed with this, or is it going to stay at quarterback and running back and then address the just the overall price increase as well?
Right. Yeah. So on that last note, it is a supply and demand system, right? The quarterbacks and running backs in the minor leagues have been waiting the longest. They will probably continue to wait the longest, right? If nothing is done. And we don't have. This isn't a product that's unlimited. It is a premium product. Only a certain number of people out there in the world, get to be a starting SFL quarterback, because that we just don't have hundreds of thousands of teams, because we don't have the game to do that, right? We don't have the online infrastructure, the servers, all that stuff. If we really wanted to have, 10 tiers and hundreds of thousands of teams, that's not what we are. So given that fact, something has to move the needle. Something has to, to push. And if you want to be in a position where your name is constantly getting called, where you're constantly getting player graphics and comparisons, where you're constantly getting Diva of the Week nominees, where you're constantly a focal point in the spotlight, it does have more value, I guess you could say, Dave, than being an offensive lineman, right? Who's not going to get that spotlight, who may get mentioned, with some shout outs a few times in a game, but in a game that the game does not track their stats, things like that. So, eventually that supply and demand is going to, that'll determine that determines everything, every decision that's made in that regard. And that's just simple economics. Nothing new or crazy there. But in terms of, I'm trying to think of what that was, Dave. Forgive me.
What was? I'm sorry.
The first part of your question.
It was kind of the two part, the overall price and then the positional were the two questions on how if that's going to continue to tier out. So you just talked about quarterbacks and running backs, but are we looking down the line where maybe every position based on value or based on how much playing time they get or what have you, is that going to get tiered in the future, or is it just going to stay strictly quarterback and running back?
It's possible we could see some more tiering. I think that's going to depend on long-term roster management. As rosters expand, as teams get bigger, what does that look like in terms of demand? For example, safeties, you can only have 2 free safeties on a squad. That's all that there is, right? On a roster for a team. So there's only a certain amount of spots before a free safety is totally priced off of teams.
Right.
Whereas wide receivers have 5 spots, and depending upon sub packages, that's it's more interchangeable, those type of things, right? So you could see something to where some positions that aren't necessarily in high demand now, depending upon the the size of roster, it could make those positions more in demand just because of the lack of spots. So we could see that develop with that. But in terms of price and cost increase, and as a business, we're just trying to balance books.
Right.
So far, we've invested $2,000 in automating this system. The reason for automating the system is so that we can grow, so that we can provide as much opportunity as we possibly can, whether that be more teams, whether that be more roster spots, right? If you're in the minor league and you're one of the 112 players, you want opportunity, and we want to give you that opportunity. So we have to create the infrastructure where we can provide that opportunity and provide a better user experience. So you're not having to learn all these convoluted rules, or post in Discord but it's a little bit off, or you misunderstood something or whatever, right? It's all about user experience, and so that's what that looks like. So as a company who doesn't necessarily bring in hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in revenue when you have something that's going to take $3, $4, $5,000 out of a yearly budget. That those funds have to come from somewhere. They just don't drop out of the sky. So
Right.
We invested that money before any kind of increase, just to show players, hey, you already know where your money's going because we've already put it in to the product. So
since you brought it up, I'm going to ask. You brought up expansion and roster expansion in particular, which other people are bringing up in the chat right now, and seems to be kind of a hot topic lately. You mentioned there's 112, I think you just said, minor leaguers. I think we've seen maybe 20 people or so retire or become, or leave the league, for one reason or another so far. So does the demand show that we need to have roster expansion this season? Are we in a wait and see? Or is it pushed back to next season? Where are we at with roster expansion?
We are in a wait and see right now, Dave. There's two things that have to happen. First, we have to finish the automation project. We can't, we already, honestly, it was irresponsible to manually process 480 contracts last offseason, right? We just, the wait times are so long, the process is extremely clunky, right? But we just didn't have a choice. We definitely don't ever want to be in a position where we have to do that again, and we certainly would not put ourselves in a position where we're doing it that way and processing more than 480 contracts. So because of that, for SFL rosters to go beyond 480 players total, automation has to be completed. Now, we are very hopeful that will occur this offseason, but we don't know at what time, right? If it is running a little bit behind and it's something to where, our offseason is somewhat shortened in terms of our signing period, Dave,
right?
Then adding more players into the fold of that is not ideal, right? And it could cause further logistical backups. But if automation concludes, at a normal time or before owners' meetings or things like that, well, now we have tools at our disposal to work on any kind of substitution rules or any kind of, negotiations on roster expansions and what that looks like, right? There's a variety of ways to expand rosters, whether it goes against the cap or not, if it's all the same cap hit, for backups, things like that, right?
Right.
And we don't want to put players in positions to where they're not going to be able to succeed on the field, where they're not getting playing time, where they're not, racking up tackles or targets or anything like that. We don't want to do that. So it is kind of a wait and see because that automation has to finish, and then we have to figure out the substitution things, which that's for, the owners in the league to, to have a discussion over in the offseason just to try to figure out what the best way is to go about that. Now, past this upcoming season and going into 2022, we absolutely are, looking into long-term roster growth. We want to see locker rooms full, supercharged, hyped up to where, as a player in the league, you really don't have to go anywhere else besides your locker room 6 days a week because you do have so many teammates and so many fun people, good conversation. So that's certainly a point of emphasis for the future, but we gotta hammer out this automation stuff first.
So before I get to some questions in the chat, and we admire the muscles of all of my panelists right now.
Are they muscling right now?
Yeah, I think Coach started it, and then these two jumped on it. Mike St. Green, I don't think cares. Oh, there he goes. Look at that. Everybody, show him. So I don't know if I'm stating the obvious by saying that, but if the automation takes a little longer, we don't get roster expansion in the SFL, and we already have 112 players. Don't know how many are going to get drafted, but then we have an influx of people. Is the obvious back plan then or backup plan that you have minor league team expansion instead?
Possibly. We could be looking at another one of those super drafts, except we won't have a supplemental draft.
Hey, you sure you don't want me to ask you about that?
But I mean that could be possible. But we just have to see how the offseason develops too. We've got to have owners meetings. We've got to see of all the 24 teams, how many are coming back. Hopefully all of them. But you never know. And then we have to see how many players actually do get drafted. And then we'll monitor the class growth during season 17, right? If the class growth is like crazy, right? And we've got 150 or 160, yeah, we might have to add a 10th minor league team, an 11th minor league team, things like that. But if the class is steady, I think right now, I mean, 112 divided by 9, Dave, I don't have my calculator in front of me, but those are pretty good units. It's about I think that's about 12 players aside. Which is kind of old school SFL in a way. We obviously we have 20 players on SFL teams. There's no reason why we couldn't have 20 players on SFLm teams, which would make the class about 180 if you had just the 9 teams that we have. So I don't know that we're necessarily, you may necessarily see new or more teams in SFLm, but we'll monitor the class and see how we do.
Hey, there's a movement in the chat to bring back the supplemental draft. I don't know if you're watching it or not, but I think people just love the term supplemental draft. I'm
sure it's full of sarcasm, hatred, and just to make me miserable.
No,
I should have never said anything.
They must be totally serious. Hey, real quick. So in the chat, there's some questions. Rizabit is asking, will there be a way for a team owner / coaches to see everyone's progression for their team, aka making sure they progress properly according to the plans with the new automated system?
Yes. So just like a player portal, we're planning a team portal as well. There will be different roles on the team. This is particularly important for contract submission process. For example, Dave, I don't know how Lone Star does it, but you're a general manager for Lone Star. Some teams have general managers actually submit those contracts to those players. Other teams, it goes through kind of a chain of command thing, make sure everything's up to par. So there will be different types of roles in which what teams can do, who can submit contracts, who can to players, who can submit contracts to the league once the player has accepted them, yada, yada, yada. And so as being a part of that team staff within the portal, you'll have access to, who's progressed, what they progressed, that sort of thing. And as of right now, it's planned on kind of a timer thing, right? So it shuts off at the deadline. So if teams, for whatever reason, or players change their mind or change their progression plans, then that can be, that progression can be resubmitted without, there being issue. I think in the current system, right, you progress, and once it's processed, that's the end of it. But that's only because a person doesn't want to do that more than once. So, yes, that is part of the plan.
So Jeff Gagne, I think Jeff might have missed this part. He said, would there be a backup pay tier where they pay less? Tough enough with some people being wide receiver 3 versus wide receiver 2, with some players getting the play time they want in the league, which, Jeff, you missed it. We discussed it, that there will probably be something like that in the future if the demand warrants it. I saw somebody else.
I have a comment. It could be tiered, but I'm more focused on realistic fatigue than I am just having backups not get involved. Right. So as a person, what it also does is it also makes people reconsider being on the same team for life. Right. Because if you're a wide receiver 5, you may get a target or 2 because someone is fatigued, but you're looking for bigger and better opportunity. Right. And if you can't get that on a current team, you're going to look for that somewhere else. So natural fatigue and getting, for example, if you have a two running back system, if the running back 1 gets 20 carries and the running back 2 gets 6 to 7 carries, that's realistic. If you're looking for a starting running back spot, you're going to want to get out of that and to go into a starting position. So I'd really like to make it realistic from the standpoint of people are constantly always striving for playing time and getting the most that they can. with whatever team that might be, right, in whatever situation they want.
Before we go on to my last group of questions here, Jeremy Vega has offered to buy me beer at the convention if I promote his comment in the Twitch chat. So of course I will promote it for you, Jeremy. It says Denver needs a general manager to do everything contract related and bring me beer related tasks. So there you go. Please promote this, Dave. Jeremy Vega, you're welcome. I'll see you at the bar at the convention. So we were talking numbers. We were talking about how many SFL minor league players there are. It seems to me, it seems like to a couple people, and again, it's all timing probably, but it seems like maybe there's been a few more retirements this early in the offseason than normal. Does it seem like that to you? Do the numbers warrant that kind of comment, or is this just kind of business as usual so far this season?
So in season 14, for example, 9 days after the regular season had ended, there had been 26 public declarations for retirements. 5 of them didn't actually end up retiring. From based off of other seasons, this is normal, and it's not in any kind of severe case. The league anticipates every season every team losing one player, which is 24 players, or otherwise known as 5%. People have family obligations, they have cost obligations, people lose their job, they have a family member go ill, they get involved in other hobbies, there's a variety of different reasons why people leave. 5% is the way the league looks at it is pretty good. We know we're not going to make every single person happy. We know that every single person's not going to be happy with whatever situation they had on their team in that particular year. Sometimes that's a reason why people, leave, is just they had a bad time. But 95% retention is what the league aims for every season. And we think we're pretty proud of that. So I think there's been 16 public retirements for this season. So, it's about on pace, and we don't want to lose anybody. But we understand that everybody has different life situations, different reasons for retiring. And, that's life. That's the way it goes. So I wouldn't say it's out of the ordinary.
So it's mostly par for the course, basically, is what you're saying.
As of this moment,
as of
yeah.
Right now, right? As of right now. Jeff Gagne actually made another good comment in here. He said it may just be the fact that it's higher profile retirements this early, not necessarily more numbers. I want to open it up to the panel to see if they have any questions for you, Cam, before we wrap all this up. Michael, I'm going to start with you. Do you have anything for Cam?
Yeah, hey, thanks for taking my call, Dave. Cam, nice talking to you. First-time listener, long-time caller, great topic, love the show. So Cam, with the automated progression thing, does it then for copper and bronze players track and then also allow for the bonus progression? Or is it going to work differently? Thanks for taking my call. I'm just going to hang up and listen to the answer.
So, by the way, funny story on that. I called into a radio show once. I've called into a radio show once my entire life, and I called on the show because I really liked the guy, and I knew him personally, and I gave my opinions and my thoughts, and I hung up just like Mike did, and I waited for his response, and he totally hated on what I said, and I never called into a radio show again. Really upset me. That's just ridiculous. So Mike, good luck to you.
That's right. I'll never take his call again, so don't worry about it.
So the system works based on your tier. The rules are implemented based on the rules for each tier, right? So if you are a copper player, when you open up your progression, it will show you the rates of progression for that copper player. Once your ratings, which are then automatically applied based on what adjustment you've made, once your ratings cross into that bronze threshold, when you open progression back up the next week, you are now on the bronze progression, right? So it basically reads which tier you're at, and it pulls the rule set for that tier. And the system, very intuitive. I'm impressed. Again, shout out to Jacob Bouvet. for giving me the contact. I couldn't have done it without him. But Gary has done a phenomenal job. That's how it works. Now, as far as bonus progression, things like that, I don't have all the ins and outs of the details. That's something though that may end up having to go away, just because it's difficult or challenging for the system. I'm not really sure on that. But in terms of how it works for each tier, that's how it works.
Hey, so Eagle has a question. I'm not sure I understand it. We may need to have him elaborate on it in the chat, unless you understand it, Cam. He actually tagged you in there. He said open numbers or positions for next season.
Yeah, he's talking about the NFL rule change for numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. I personally don't have a huge issue with numbers at all. The reason why we do have structured numbers is, as Mike is shaking his head, is simply because from a broadcasting angle, the job of our broadcasters is already challenging enough. Trying to watch a game from a remote location, and sometimes teams don't help with their interesting uniform selections, and it's really difficult to see the numbers. If it helps a broadcaster if the numbers of a player relate to the position group. It's easier to find them. So, for example, if number 88 makes a reception, they know who that is. Or if a number 24 makes a tackle, they're not going to be looking for the linebacker who made the tackle, right? So it's baked in to broadcasting to have those numbers in certain groups. I have to talk with Mike Daggs about his thoughts on the matter, but essentially, if broadcasters, if it's going to make it more difficult on broadcasters, we're not going to do it. Otherwise, other than that, I want people to have the numbers that they want. It's just a matter of is it making our product worse because our broadcasters are doing a worse job identifying players?
Right. Before I go to Bo. Jeff Gagne, man, Jeff Gagne's blowing it up here in chat. He just commented, scouting is already hard enough for defense too. He wants you to stay with the standard numbers.
Yep.
Bo, what you got anything for Cam?
So, hey Cam, good talking to you. Seeing you? Well, good hearing you. I can't see you, but so listen.
You're lucky.
Question is this: I was trying to crunch some numbers on how many players are in the SFLm right now, how many will probably be drafted, and the reason I was doing that is because I was trying to kind of get an inkling of roster expansion and what would happen with that, and I know you talked maybe a little bit about it, but I was hoping perhaps you could talk a little bit more about roster expansion, the possibility of it all, the probability of it all. And, if so, are you looking at maybe one spot, two spots, or whatever it would be? And so I was just hoping you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to project. It really is. I personally think that it's more likely that we see some sort of, I don't want to keep calling it a super draft because everyone's going to freak out. But I think it's more possible that we see like a much larger draft class in a couple of seasons than we see a little bit, like like one or two spots added of roster expansion this season. And the reason why I say that is it's very difficult to project exactly how many players are going to be drafted, right? At least at this stage of the calendar, April 27th. I think the draft is June 24th or something like that weekend. So that makes the draft a full 2 months away. And it's just hard to know, particularly since, teams have not even started re-signing players, exactly what that's all going to look like, which is always what makes setting the cap and setting the rosters the most challenging part of the offseason, because that has to be done before any of that signing starts. So, if you're a player out there and you intend to return, or you're a player out there and you're on the fence, or you're a player out there and I'm not going to be able to play in the next season, please inform your staff, because that helps us make an informed decision on exactly what's going to happen. So, Bo, let's say, for example, if there are, let's call it 72 spots open, right? 3 per team. Let's say that there are 72 spots open by the time the offseason starts, or let's go with 48, 2 per team. If there's 48 spots per team, that's going to leave 64 players in the minor leagues. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But if we were to expand by one too many, right, and then we end up with 72 of the 112 getting drafted, if we have position groups that end up getting slashed, to where we don't have anybody left, that could cause issues, for a future draft, because all of those players have to be recruited again. Ideally, we don't want to have any position group totally left with nobody, because then every new person that comes in to fill those spots is going to be starting from the bottom, and that makes the draft class really weak at that position. So ideally, you want to have all positions in the league have some players who are still developing left over, so that they can have a second season in the minors to continue to build up those attributes. So I would say that the odds of seeing much larger roster expansion in season 18 or the winter 2022 season is more likely than seeing a very small change to roster sizes this offseason, but it is a little too early to tell. But that's where I'd put my thoughts at it right now.
Okay. Mike St. Green, you got anything for Cam? I know you've been waiting for this moment for probably weeks, if not months, bro. Come on.
I kind of dozed off like halfway through what he was saying, but
that's nothing new.
But the question is, who is the? And I'll hang up and listen. Also, who do you consider the third best wide receiver kick returner in the league? And I'll hang up and listen.
The third best. You're not even going for first or second.
Well, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat the first two.
Well, I meant to say the best wide receiver 3 and kick return in the league. That's what I meant to say. And I'll hang up and listen.
Well, I know you're not going to like this, Mike, but as I always do, I go by the stats.
Uh-oh.
So that may not be good for you. So technically, I would say my answer to the third best kick returner in the league, that would be Dustin Zeck. So
really,
sorry, Mike. Let's see. Average kick return yards. I have to scroll down the screen a little bit.
Doug Britton getting a lot of love.
You're 11th.
I have to jump back in. Dave.
Mike called back in. Mike, you're on the air again.
It's a combination of both, not just one guy. But I know it's not going to be me anyway.
So, Doug Britton getting a lot of love. LC Mondavi getting a lot of love in the chat, but it's Zach, huh?
Zach's third in kick return average this season, yeah.
There you go.
And shout out to Mike for all he's done all season long. We'll miss him.
Awesome.
I think Mike actually meant to ask who was the best third wide receiver / kick returner on Jacksonville. That's what he meant to ask.
Well, we know he's named Mike.
That type of question is like going to the grocery store and being like, "Hey, what's the best aisle?" And the employees are like, "What? What kind of question is that?"
Well, look at Mike All, attaboy. Before I get to Coach and see if he has anything for you, Cam, a couple people have asked in the chat if there's going to be any changes to the minor league progressions, and does the new automated system affect minor league as well?
Yep, you bet. So we're not going to build a whole other system for the minor league. In terms of automation, we just built the one for the major league. It would not be conducive to people's subscriptions, to anybody to build another one. So I'm not gonna come in here and take the wind out of Rastelli's sails or anything, but obviously we have to make some consolidations to our rule sets in order to streamline this process.
Okay, so the other question on that is, will there be any changes to the way minor leaguers progress? There seems to be a few people in the chat that feel that minor leaguers are progressing too fast.
Yes. Yes. So think about when the system was created. The system was created to instantly bring value to the draft, right? That was the point of getting attributes up and making the draft valuable. But as time has gone on, right, and our league has grown, and we have filled spots, and with essentially the SFLm is somewhat of a, I mean, it is a true developmental league in the sense that you just don't develop in one season. You know, there's a lot of players that take, you know, a couple seasons to develop and climb up the leaderboards and things like that. So because of that, the minor league constantly, now that that base silver was lifted, it's providing that value that those teams need, right? So because of that, we don't need to. It doesn't have to be a race. It can be a little bit more managed. So, you know, with growth comes a need to adjust rule sets, and you see it all the time, Dave. We've had plenty of conversations where a rule will be put in place, and 1 year later, it's just totally obsolete given where we are now, and it has to be adjusted. That's how quickly this league has grown. Is we just constantly have to sort of chase our own tail to improve the product and improve the rules of the league, because everything does, everything does evolve so quickly, and that's a beautiful thing.
I'm going to give the last question of the night to our mystery guest, number 5, Coach Craven, back on the show after traveling and moving cross country and settling in Oklahoma. Coach, what do you got for Cam?
I think Cam's taken enough of a beating tonight. I'm not going to go after him or anything.
You call this a beating? I'm like sipping lemonade on a beach somewhere. This is all good.
I heard about your owners' meetings.
Fair enough.
No, I don't have any questions. Everything that was going through my head has been asked and answered. Kind of the nice thing about being at the end of the line. So I'm good.
All right, Coach. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Cam, anything that you want to talk about that we didn't ask you? And actually, there is something here. Some people are saying that some minor leaguers have been drafted at gold. Some people are refuting that. Do you have an answer to that? Have we ever had any draftees be gold?
I don't have an answer for you, but what I can say about that is, look, if you earn it, baby.
There you go.
And if you earned it and they signed you to that fat contract, guess what? Anybody can be signed to that fat contract. So, yeah, if you earn it, you earn it. And that's the whole thing, right, Dave? A lot of the rules that we have adjusted over the last couple of seasons is in the whole effort to make sure that people are getting what they've earned, whatever that is, right? And they're not assuming other builds or doing anything like that. It is what you've gotten, and if they've earned it, they've earned it. So that's how I feel about that for any players, rookies or otherwise.
Okay. Anything we did not get to that you wanted to discuss this evening? We're
always looking towards the next season. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on presentation, what their favorite part of presentation this was. Obviously, that's a big deal around here and a big part of my job. But always looking to make improvements. And if people have opinions on that, I'd love to hear them, whether they're in the Axis chat, DMs, or otherwise, as we build towards next season. I really enjoyed, me personally, I enjoyed our 6x2 format this year, 6 games, 6 games Sunday. And some days are longer than others, and some days are more difficult than others, but I thought it worked, and Mike and I, we really had fun doing game breaks and halftime shows and that type of stuff. It was super enjoyable all season long.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I like the new format. I really like The divisional format that you came up with, I think 24 teams is the perfect amount of teams. It works perfectly for divisions and playoffs and the whole 9 yards. I think this was a great way to put all that together, Cam, and I think this has been my favorite season. I've only been here like 3.5 seasons or whatever it is, but it's been my favorite so far.
Yeah, I like the play on the field this year. I thought it was a great product. That's a testament to our teams and the coaching staffs and everybody that works so hard on these teams. I got to tell you, Dave, particularly this minor league season, I am just having a blast. And it's not to take anything away from season 1 or season 2, but just watching these coaching staffs, even in the minor leagues, competing in these games. These are good games. This is good football, and I say that not to be braggadocious of the league. I mean, I am genuinely impressed by where the competition in this league is. It blows me away. It blows my mind, and I think we're very fortunate, and I think we probably all take it for granted.
Right,
like Denver, Arizona, Fort Worth, Vancouver, for example. Like this weekend, like that is just some great football. It's been super fun.
Well, and this is the third consecutive season now where the minor league has been different, right? The first season it was a little slower. We bumped up progression in season 2, and then this season they're playing on Legends as well. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So all 3 seasons have been different, and I think this has been the most exciting minor league season so far. We're only 2 games in, but you can already see, how well people or how well teams are scoring. Which obviously, as an offensive player, I love. I know Eddie Gage hates probably every second of it, but I love the higher scores in the minor league, especially compared to what we had 2 seasons ago in minor league season 1.
Right. Well, and that's a result of some offensive players being in the minor leagues for, 2 seasons, possibly 3 seasons, as we move down the line, depending, on the position. But you've got a bunch of those guys, and then you got a bunch of young defenders out there, and that has created, more exciting, more explosive games because you've got a lot of great offensive talent, and because there's not as many stars on the field, you just don't have as many defenders out there making plays. The SFL game, it's a slog to try to score, unless you're Lone Star in Baltimore, I guess. But Usually it is but I threw you in there. You scored 40.
We scored 40 on the champs. Anybody else do that this season? Just saying.
So, but I mean, usually it is a slog because obviously the coaching is top notch, but the rosters are top notch too, and you've got a ton of awesome defenders out there making plays. And I stand by this league having way more turnovers than the other leagues. Hey. These defenders are balling. They are no joke, and we see teams all the time throw no interceptions all the time. So the teams have no excuse that throw 4 a game. They just don't. It's exciting to see the defenders getting some love too.
Yeah,
defenders are people too. So
all right. Well, now we just got to get coach to admit that kickers are people too, and we'll be all on the same page. That being said, Coach, thanks again for being here.
Hey, any position that I can fill by walking 2 practice fields over and getting a soccer player, that's not a football player.
And there you have it. On that note, I'm going to wrap this up. Cam, thanks for coming on. Thanks for answering all of our questions. You are still getting some comments in the chat about people loving the pregame, halftime, postgame shows you do with Mike St. Green, as well as people loving the divisional format this season. So I think the extremely successful season in the NFL or the SFL for season 16.
And I hope to have Coach and Doug in the studios at some point in season 17. Now that they're
that has to happen. That
would love to have them
absolutely
on board.
has to happen. I agree. All right, Cam, thanks again for being here. Also, special thanks to our panelists, Mike All, Bo Morpheus Jr., the fill-in last-minute sub, Mike St. Green, and coming back to the show after finally getting his butt packed in Oregon and moving it out to where again, Coach? Hope you're muted, bro.
Done, dude. Oklahoma.
Coach, thanks for being back on. Appreciate you being mystery guest, or I'm sorry, mystery panelist number 5 on the Access Live show. Always humongous thanks to everyone in the chat. Number 1 for tuning in. Number 2 for being active. You know that's my favorite part of the entire show is bantering back and forth with you, getting the corrections made, having the questions asked. Oh, what's up, Dougie Doug? There's Doug Day. Coach, make sure you tell him what Cam said about you two being on a broadcast here coming up next season. And
Heard it.
There it is.
Saw it.
Awesome. Doug, thumbs up, buddy. All right. Again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Love you too, Doug Day. We will be back here in a little less than 48 hours. Again, special thanks to Axel Raven for doing my graphics tonight. Appreciate him filling in for me. Our best wishes to Tyler Falk. Hopefully he will be well enough for NETMA tomorrow night. That would be Wednesday, 8 p.m. on his Twitch channel. In the meantime, we'll see you in a little less than 48 hours. Goodbye, everybody down there. Goodbye, Brady Bunch. Goodbye, Brady Bunch. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Wait, hold on. How do you do the... Is this the... Oh, no, that's like a... Is that a princess wave? What is that? I don't know what that is. But anyway, thank you, everybody, saying great show. We do it for you guys. Appreciate all of you. See you guys in about 48 hours. Thursday night, 9 p.m. on Twitch, right here, where we will see you at the tees.